In this video, I'm going to be introducing 10 animated movies that have female main characters I enjoyed watching. And the idea for this video came with the most popular animated movie in the year 2025, at least in my personal opinion, which is going to be the first movie that I'll be introducing to you guys and talking about, which is KPop Demon Hunters. But with that, I kept thinking strong female characters, fantastic music, and interesting individuals with unique stories. And I decided to help complement this movie with 9 other movies that are currently still my favorites so far. Some have music songs, but there is a couple that do not. But all of them do have female lead main characters. And so those will be some of the criteria for this video. And with all that being said, let's begin. Everyone on YouTube, Masquerade here, and welcome back to my channel. Alright, well, it's no surprise to guess what my number 1 movie is that I have selected for this list, but let's talk about it. Again, the number 1 movie that I have for you guys on this list is called KPop Demon Hunters. The year is 2025 and directed by Maggie Kang and Chris Appeland. This movie is definitely one of the top animated movies of the year 2025, with loads of awesome hype-like introduction to many of the audience. I would say it made a global impact. Now, I don't know the statistics of it, but from what I see from the internet and social media, this movie's influence is quite up there. This movie has action, music, a very good song. For example, Soda Pop, Free, and Golden are some of the few songs in the movie, and there are also many others, but the animation is also very clean and vibrant. And even though it felt like the movie went really fast, I still thought it did a really good job in incorporating just the right amount, where it didn't feel too slow or too fast. I also think this movie production was smart and a strategic move of the creators of the film by Sony Pictures Animation, because K-pop music, Korean dramas, and Korean culture in general has been trending a lot, or slowly getting more and more popular enough for majority of people to already know or have heard of these things. Which I remember the song that got me hooked up in this movie was Soda Pop. It's catchy and it has like bubbly vibes to it, and it really captivated and captured a lot of individuals, including myself, that it reached a lot of already K-pop fans. So the music and the songs were a great advertisement and marketing strategy. I was also interested because the movie setting is in Korea, and also some of you already know that I am Korean American, so it piqued my interest for sure. Even though I would say the movie of the title is quite obvious and on the nose, but it worked out really well in the end. Another factor that I've heard that got me interested was that the Twice members from Twice, which is a famous Korean K-pop group, has participated in this project. And currently, my favorite K-pop girl group is Twice, so that was an added bonus. And lastly, looking at the cast members, Arden Cho was in it as the voice actor from Rumi, the main character. And if you know about me, I am a big fan of Ryan Higa and his work on YouTube. And one of the oldest videos that I could remember was the video called Agents of Secret Stuff. That was my first introduction to Arden Cho, because that video starred Arden Cho and Ryan Higa. And with all this being said, this movie was quite tempting to watch. And so now the story of this movie is about Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, who are K-pop superstars, but also secretly through their music and performances, they fight demons that prey on human souls. And so they are trying to protect the people of Korea with a magical barrier called the Honmun. However, things get complicated when they now have to face a rival demon boy band called the Saja Boys, led by Jinu, and you have the rest of the crew, who are Abby, Romance, Mystery, and Baby. And so their mission is to try to weaken the Honmun so that Krima, the ruler of the demon world, by the way, if you switch Krima, you would get a different word, and this word, Magi, means devil, which kind of makes sense, is the one that wants to consume all the human souls. So this movie becomes like an idol battle, going back and forth with their songs and their voices, and also we do get to see some of their story and their background. And the story of this movie goes into a deeper dive to Rumi and Jinu, and so both of them starts to create a connection with one another, starting to develop a strong relationship together, which is very much close to a very K-drama aesthetic sometimes, and how they interact and share each other's secrets, history, and feelings. Even though this is a fast-paced movie, there can be a lot of interesting things to unpack here. For example, the Saja Boys from the boy band are derived from the word 저승사자, which if you know Korean and you know what this word means, it's the word for Grim Reaper. And the Saja Boys' outfit in demon form are actually wearing the exact same style style, the traditional style of that representation. Because if you take out the chosun from the saja and you are left with the word saja, which by itself it means lion. And as you see from the fan base logo, there is a lion on it, and their fan base fans are called the Pride, which is quite clever. Also, this popular trope in Korean dramas, the chosun saja are characterized as ones that guides the soul to the afterlife. If you've seen many Korean dramas, a popular one that comes to mind is called Goblin, or dokkaebi in Korean, which it does showcase this specific type of element. So the movie showcases some Korean mythology, but it also showcases a little bit about the K-pop industry as well. How K-pop idols might have to stick to a certain schedule or diet, and so sometimes you tend to see them eat a lot when given the opportunity. And or having a manager like Bobby, or even when your vocals are hurting and you seek a healthy herbal drink or a healthy tonic, is something that a lot of Korean people can relate and recognize. Overall, I think this movie did a really good job in capturing a lot of their audience and fans, revealing some of the good and dark parts of the K-pop industry, and providing Korean presentations and references. It really is an amazing, cool experience, so why not check it out if you haven't already. Okay, the last thing I want to mention is EJ and her story, a former SM Entertainment K-pop trainee, which includes groups like Girls' Generation, Super Junior, EXO, and aespa, who after training for a long time got dropped. But through the struggle, over time she was able to be a successful songwriter and singer, which is such an amazing underdog story. She became an unknown dark horse that surprised many people around the world. She is very talented and is a good example of, even though things might not go your way as intended in the beginning, however, later on through perseverance, she was able to accomplish something much more, and that's something to be very proud of. The second movie on my list that I think is a good contender for this topic video is called Frozen, year 2013, directed by Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee. This movie was also so impactful that I remember watching this movie in theaters long time ago, and the animation was no doubt so beautiful. The songs and the music was also amazing. Songs like Do You Wanna Build a Snowman and Let It Go. Those two songs was quite influential. Plus the story of the movie had ice superpower, which is my third favorite power in the superpower category list. So seeing that displayed in action was quite cool, pun intended, and just seeing how beautiful the scenes were as well. And mixing that with Elsa using her ice abilities. And in these adventures, you get to see different characters having different motives that later on gets revealed. Also, the villain reveal on this movie was quite surprising, not gonna lie. In this movie, Elsa showed off her emotions, and Anna discovered what her true feelings really are. And so the story of this movie is about two sisters, Anna and Elsa, who have to rule their kingdom because both of their parents died in a shipwreck. And so Elsa, the oldest sister who has ice powers, which the movie doesn't really completely explain it, and Anna, the younger sister who doesn't have powers, which that part also doesn't get explained in the movie as well, clearly, but in this movie, Elsa's powers are treated as something she is born with, and it is presented in a way like fear, anxiety, and trauma, or something that is hard to control or is uncontrollable. And so Elsa, having this pressure of keeping everything hidden and to not lose control of her powers, is having a hard time. She then runs away to be free, and with her powers unleashed to her utmost potential, their kingdom has now been trapped by a heavy winter. And in order to break Elsa's icy spell, Elsa decides to join forces with Kristoff, the mountaineer, and the sidekick Reindeer to stop Elsa and save their kingdom from a possible freezing disaster. And their journey is not an easy one. They encounter mythical trolls, a snowman creature, and Olaf. They travel a great distance, and along the way, they face obstacles, but in this movie, it showcases the love of sisterhood. Also in this movie, you learn about how suppression can make things worse. Not giving up on the ones you love, and you don't have to be fearless to be brave. It's the action that you take despite fear, despite not having any confidence. Those are the lessons that you can learn in this movie. Furthermore, this movie is obviously visually appealing, and definitely you will have a great experience watching it. The third movie on my list that I think is a good addition for this video is called Mulan, year 1998, directed by Tony Bancroft and Barry Cook. I believe the majority of the Asian community can agree that this movie is a nice representation for us as an official Disney princess and a warrior in the movie, which makes it different and unique because traditionally princesses are portrayed as not really fighters, and so when we hear the phrase damsel in distress, it does not apply fully with Mulan. And in some other cases, just like the first movie, Mulan is a soldier in this movie. We get to see her dealing with things like family expectation, traditional role models, and seeking acceptance of proving herself as someone who can save her country and even her own father. And so the story of this movie is about Mulan, a spirited Chinese girl who lives with her mother, grandmother, and her ailing father. The family lived in a time where under patriarchal regime, and at that time for China, the Han invasion was happening. And so Mulan, being fearful that her father might get drafted into the Chinese military, even though her father is not in the quite best condition, Mulan decides to take his spot, impersonating as a man and leaving the house in secret to go off and train with fellow recruits to fight against the Huns. But Mulan is accompanied by her trusty horse, a cricket, and her dragon, Mushu, which was voice acted by Eddie Murphy. And Mushu was sent by her ancestors to look after Mulan. So basically, Mulan is going to war in her father's place, which is a very honorable and noble thing to do. But at that time, women were not allowed to go to war, and society at that time had strict gender roles. So with Mulan in her journey, you get to see her struggle a lot, facing against other men, struggling with her own physical strength, but her true strength shines by her cleverness and bravery to become a national hero and save the emperor and all of China. And there are two really good songs in the movie, I'll Make a Man Out of You and Reflection. Those two are my favorites, and this movie is really funny and entertaining, but it also can have some serious moments as well. And when you see her struggle with her weaknesses, you can't help but root for her to want to get through the war, get through training, and get through all of this so she can go back home and reunite with her family. And in the movie, it does present a strong, inspiring main character. She has great determination, and she definitely proves herself in the end. I will also say, just real quick, that there is a live action movie of Mulan, year 2020, and unfortunately, that movie was quite disappointing. I was really hyped for that movie, but it turns out there was less emotional depth, tone confusion, and some of the new characters didn't really connect that well. But like I mentioned before, in this movie, Mulan 1998, it has some memorable songs and a great balance of humor and heart. This is a very entertaining film to watch. There is also some romance between Captain Shang and Mulan, also making friends along the way, and Mulan absolutely in this movie brought honor to us all. The fourth movie on my list for this video is going to be called Turning Red, year 2022, directed by Domi Shi. I think this movie goes well nicely because it does have some implements of idols, and being a fan of it, introducing a similar element in the first movie of the music industry, has a bit of Asian representation, and we get to see the pressure that it can make on a girl who is just trying to do her best and to try to please her parents. But she also wants to do what she wants to do, deep down with the things that she is mostly passionate about. Also, another note, it was pretty interesting that the movie takes place in Canada, which is something different for me to see. And so the story of this movie is about Mei Lin Lee, or Mei, a confident 13-year-old Chinese-Canadian girl in 2002 Toronto. Shout out to Toronto. But Mei is struggling in between being a good, dutiful daughter to her overbearing mother. Her name is Ming, and Mei is navigating the chaotic emotions of adolescence. So liking boys and liking a boy group called Four Town, which their hit song Nobody Like You was very good and catchy, so I enjoyed that. Also, another interesting aspect to the story is when Mei gets too stressed or excited, she transforms into a giant red panda, which this specific trait has been passed down and inherited from her ancestors. So there is some special ability or family blessing / curse that all of the women in the family inherits this power, which does add a metaphor of growing up. This movie talks about cultural and family legacy, and it creates that theme of self-acceptance. But the main clash is Mei and her mother, and we'll get to see just how they resolve it. We'll see through their own struggles, and each of them opening up in a way that both sides truly understand each other and their perspectives. Also, Mei has her 3 friends along the way with her journey. With Miriam, Priya, and Abby, they become the support system that Mei needs in order to overcome her inner self. I was also intrigued when I heard Abby Park speaking a little bit of Korean, which was a nice nice touch, I might say. And throughout their journey, we can see and learn the lessons of embracing who you are. As you will see clearly, May tells and shows her mother of her other side, her loud side, her identity. And this movie also shares the idea that it is okay to grow and change. And I think this movie did a good job in presenting May's mom as someone who wants things done in a specific way. There is a certain image that Mother Ming wants her daughter to be, and so change might be a big thing for her. Also, she has to deal with her own problems with her own mother as well. And lastly, the lesson of family support. Both May and her mother makes mistakes, but eventually they communicate and respect each other, and towards the end, supporting one another help them get through their struggles and hardships. And that was a nice message to see in this movie. Now, the fifth movie on my list that I think will go nicely is called Pocahontas, year 1995, directed by Mike Gabriel and Eric Goldberg. This movie feels like a beautiful artistic painting coming to life. The colors, texture, and the background is something that a lot of people can appreciate. This movie showcases a little bit about the Native American history and the English settlement. Of course, the real story behind this is not 100% accurate, but as far as the movie goes, I enjoyed watching it because of the interesting story, design, and also the songs of the music. One clear song that is so well done and so impactful, it has a nice message behind it, is the iconic song Colors of the Wind. The song is about respect, understanding, and seeing the world from a different perspective. The movie shows a nice presentation for the audience from this song, and I think it goes well as showcasing the big theme of the movie, in my personal opinion, of course. And so the story of this movie is about a spirited Native American woman named Pocahontas, who defies her father and falls in love with an English captain, John Smith, who arrives in 1607 Virginia with greedy settlers seeking for gold. This movie is unique because it gives out strong environmental message of respect and harmony for nature. It does tackle some mature tones and a more serious, thoughtful story. And Pocahontas is seen as curious, wise, and strong-willed. And she makes her own decision to choose peace, and the story centers it, or around it, of learning the lesson of building connections and to bridge cultural themes about empathy and inclusion. This movie talks about understanding and respecting differences for one another and each other. The sixth movie on my list that goes well with the video topic is called The Little Mermaid, year 1989, directed by Ron Clements and John Musker. This movie has great musical fun and interesting songs to hear from. Some of them include Part of Your World, For Unfortunate Souls, and Under the Sea. This movie has musical brilliance, and it does have that Broadway influence sound to it, and the animation is good. It's very vibrant, detailed, and engaging. There's also memorable supporting characters as well. And so the story of this movie is about Ariel, a 16-year-old mermaid princess who falls in love with a human prince named Eric, and Ariel's dream is to live with him on land. Ariel is a type of character that is independent. She is quite passionate about exploring a different world besides the sea, and she is very proactive and curious, and also is a headstrong character that a lot of the times acts on her desires. However, because of her young passionate desires, she makes a dangerous deal with the sea witch Ursula to trade in her voice for a pair of legs. And for 3 days, the deal is that Ariel has to win Eric's heart of his love, or else bad things will happen. And you also have Ariel's father, King Triton, who has trouble understanding Ariel and her desire to explore the surface world. Now, Ursula is not going to make it easy for Ariel. Unfortunately, I mean, she is the main villain of the story, but with the help of Ariel's animal friends, namely Flounder, Sebastian, and Scuttle, they work together so that their beloved Ariel could find her happiness, and they help her a lot along the way. They help her to adjust to be part of the human world, and you'll be able to enjoy the memorable catchy songs, Ariel's adventure to pursue her dreams, a life lesson that many would agree, and witnessing a strong villain being very powerful, which makes the story more exciting and intense. The seventh movie on my list that I picked that might go well with this theme is called Anastasia, year 1997, directed by Don Bluth and Gary Goldman. This This movie has great high quality, hand-drawn animation, and a hit song, Once Upon a December. This movie also feels unique and different, an underrated princess in a very different story, especially for a princess to go through. But nonetheless, a strong heroine that has memorable scenes and a romantic plot with heartwarming moments. And so the story of this movie is about Anastasia, who went through a tragic event, and because of that, she is experiencing partial or total loss of memory, which I believe is a first for a princess story. In this animation, an 18-year-old orphan named Anya, who searches for her past, but not knowing or remembering that she is the long-lost Grand Duchess Anastasia Romanov. Now, she is assisted by two conmen named Dmitri and Vladimir, very Russian names, but Anastasia's goal is to reunite and find her grandmother, who is the Dowager Empress. Now, how is Anastasia going to remember or to guide herself through this? Well, she also has this music box left by her as a way to reunite with her grandmother. It is a symbol of lost royalty, memory, and that precious bond that they both had. However, a villain who is an undead sorcerer, Rasputin, does not want that to happen. He wants to destroy them. Why? Because the Romanov family banished him, and now he wants revenge. And he will stop at nothing to complete it. He can be very quite obsessive. Now, this is a fantasy movie, and there are some loosely inspired elements from real people and events, but also not totally accurate. But it's nice to see and remember a little about the real points about the Romanov family, how the Russian Revolution did happen, and there was an individual named Rasputin. Of course, he didn't have any magical powers, but he did have some influence in the royal family. And you know, if you want some real historical records, you could do some research online, and you might get to learn something, who knows. But yeah, this movie has beautiful animation and art, detailed backgrounds and elegant characters, designed to capture Russia and Paris display. There are some emotional scenes, and we get to see a full adventure story, mystery, humor, and excitement, as the story's plot do present some high stakes to overcome. The 8th movie for my list that I think works well with this video is called Encanto, year 2021, directed by Jared Bush. So first off, this movie is based on Colombian culture, so it's definitely showcasing the diversity of music, food, clothing, and landscape that draws people of its presentation, and design of traditional Colombian architecture and vibrant heritage. But also the thing that draws me to this movie was the fact that each family member have different unique powers gifted to them. And the movie also discusses family dysfunction, intergenerational trauma, and the pressure of high expectations, along with some songs like We Don't Talk About Bruno, with a nice mystery reveal in multiple situations. And so the story of this movie is about Mirabel Madrigal, the only ordinary member of her magical Colombian family, who didn't receive her powers compared to her other family members. And the powers vary from each member. One has super strength, super hearing, generate flowers, weather control, seeing the future, shape-shifting, and more, which for me, I'm always interested in. But since Maribel doesn't have powers of her own, she feels left out. But she still tries to save her family, the candlelight that helps awaken or maintain each of the family members' abilities stress to fade out. So Maribel has to reconcile with her family members to discover the truth and uncover a mystery and overcome her grandmother's pressure for perfection. And her abuela is doing this as a coping mechanism out of fear from her past experience. So I do think this is a nice story of a movie to show to an audience that might be dealing with similar problems like these, who knows. I also like how Mirabel becomes more and more connected with her family members, as we get to see she is trying her best. She loves her family, she sings and praises them, even though some people might feel bitter given Mirabel's situation, but she continues to fight for her family. And also, this movie explores themes of self-worth, individuality, and heartfelt emotions. They express their feelings to one another, and they all become to understand each family member's unique gifts and what each of them are going through. But just like family, its bonds become stronger when we come together as like a support group and realizing that it is okay to be imperfect. The 9th movie that I have for you guys on this list is called Brave, year 2012, directed by Mark Andrews and Brenda Chapman. Now, this is one of the movies that does not have music, song, or singing, but it does have a strong main female character. And this unique movie has stunning, detailed Scottish Highland animation. And this story has a similar theme from Turning Red, a heartfelt mother and daughter story, and leads more into family bonds. I also like how the main female character is good at archery, which puts a different element to the story. And so the story of this movie is about a courageous daughter of Scottish King Fergus and Queen Eleanor named Merida, who is skilled in archery and wants wants to carve her own path. Due to an age-old tradition, which was the firstborn child of each clan must compete for the princess's hand in marriage to marry Princess Merida. So the three sons had an archery competition of the Highland Games. But what was so unexpected that Princess Merida, not wanting for this to happen, she put herself out there being involved in the games to sort of become independent, and it really looked like she was claiming her own freedom, which was pretty cool to see. However, Merida's mother, who is very traditional, wants her to be a proper princess and accept the arranged marriage tradition. The purpose of this is to strengthen the kingdom and uniting the clans, but Merida wants to choose her own path to follow. And you can't help but seeing that to respect her decision, as the options and selections of her suitors were not quite the best. But even so, Merida, making her own decisions, just wants to choose her own destiny, which makes the movie refreshing and empowering. I also love seeing her three little brothers in action because they are a little bit of a troublemaker, but they give out comedy and a slight charm to the movie. And some of the lessons that you see in this movie is that communication matters, because Merida and her mother argue a lot, but they don't actually listen to each other, which can be very relatable nowadays in some family households. And sometimes anger and frustration can occur to where we do things that can create trouble. So actions having consequences is a lesson that we see in this movie, and along with taking responsibilities for the choices you make. The last and 10th movie for this list, that is also non-music, song, or singing, is the movie The Mitchells vs. the Machines, year 2021, directed by Michael Rianda. Now, this one is fairly recent, nothing like the other movies. However, some might say it can be slightly similar to Mulan, where there is a now father and daughter disagreement, but this one you might say is crazier. And so the story of this movie is about a dysfunctional family, and they will go on a road trip, and this idea came from the father, who eventually dropped off his daughter, Katie, at film school, but that trip gets interrupted by a sudden AI-driven robot invasion on the world, because a smartphone assistant named Pal, the villain of this movie, becomes angry after being replaced by her owner. And so she is now seeking revenge by taking control of all the robots and technology. But I think it's a smart creation. Given the times that we live in, the discussion of AI and technology, this movie showcases a worst case scenario of robots taking over the world. And so the aspiring filmmaker Katie need to work together to save humanity. Now, this movie has a lot of hilarious scenes to it, has comedy, fast jokes, silly moments. The mom becoming a robot fighter is quite epic. You get to see the family showcasing their talents and skills. And like any other family, their family dynamic is messy but feels real, and mostly the story focuses on the dad and daughter of them trying to understand each other along the trip, along the journey, along through the entire movie. And to see each other's struggles, hopes, dreams of past or future passions, and seeing them make sacrifices for the family. And notably, the animation style is so unique. You'll get to learn how family is more important than technology, and different and colorful doodles and internet style effects, which oddly enough makes and keeps the movie interesting and exciting. This is a fun watch. The movie also showed a scene where people went crazy when there's no internet. Everyone was panicking when there was no Wi-Fi, which is unfortunately not far from the truth. I also like how the message for Katie is looked about as being yourself, which is a nice message. That being different and creative is a strength and not something to hide. And I think all of us has some quirky things, habits, or moments. It just depending on how you grew up within ourselves. But it can be seen as like our unique identity. This movie shows the value of family bond, of working together, even though each of us are different. And with the Mitchells, they are able to make things work because of their support for each other, and that is a beautiful lesson for all families. And now that is my list of movies of having the criteria of female main characters with or without song, music, or singing. We can all learn a lot from these strong female characters by watching how they were able to go through their struggles and the success they have garnered on their own. They all had clear goals and motivations, flaws but also growth, confidence, self-worth, and bravery, and each of them had their own complex personality, which is amazing to see and very interesting to experience. Hopefully you guys agree with my list. If I missed some other movies, characters, or any other animation movies, which I'm sure I have, there is a lot more, but I decided to go with these 10 female main character animation movies because these are the ones that I enjoy watching and gravitated more, so I hope you did too. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.